The 1980s weren't just about flashy sports cars. Some of the fastest rides were hiding in plain sight. From bland sedans to unexpected turbo beasts, these are 12 unknown sleeper cars of the 1980s. Let's get into it. 12th, 1987 Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR. Let's kick off the list with a sleeper that wasn't all about raw speed. Sometimes a car is surprising just because it's unexpectedly fun to drive. That's where the 1987 Chevrolet Celebrity Eurosport VR comes in. Chevy's Celebrity was your typical front-wheel drive family sedan, built to haul kids and groceries. But in the mid-80s, GM decided to inject some excitement into its lineup. Enter the Eurosport VR package, a limited edition trim that gave the Celebrity a sportier look and a tighter suspension. It came with flashy red paint, aggressive body cladding, and even Recaro bucket seats. It looked like something special, but most people never realized it actually handled better than expected. Under the hood, it wasn't exactly a powerhouse. The 2.8-liter V6 produced 125 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much. But paired with its lightweight chassis and firmer suspension, it felt surprisingly nimble. For a front-wheel drive GM sedan, that was a big deal. But here's where it fell short. Despite its sporty appearance, it was still a Celebrity at heart, meaning build quality was questionable and performance upgrades were minimal. No extra power, no rear-wheel drive, just a slightly sharper version of a car built for suburbia. Still, for a brief moment, Chevy gave the Celebrity a chance to be something more. 11. 1984 Dodge Shelby Charger. The Celebrity Eurosport VR had the looks but lacked the power. This next car? It came from a legend who knew a thing or two about speed. The 1984 Dodge Shelby Charger. By the early 80s, Dodge was still shaking off the effects of the malaise era, and muscle cars were a shadow of what they once were. But Carroll Shelby, the man behind the iconic Cobras and Mustangs, had a different idea. Instead of big V8s, he turned his attention to something smaller. A front-wheel drive Dodge Charger. At first glance, the Shelby Charger looked like a standard economy car with a body kit slapped on. But under the hood, it had a tuned 2.2-liter inline-4, making 110 horsepower. Not a lot, but the upgrades didn't stop at the engine. Shelby stiffened the suspension, improved the gearing, and tweaked the aerodynamics to make it surprisingly quick for a lightweight front driver. It may not have had big power, but it handled better than almost anything else Dodge was making at the time. It was an unusual move for Shelby, and though it wasn't a true muscle car, it proved that small, lightweight performance cars had potential. But while this Charger had a Shelby badge, the next car on the list took an Audi drivetrain and hid it inside a completely forgettable sedan. Number 10, 1986 Volkswagen Quantum Syncro. The Dodge Shelby Charger proved that front-wheel drive performance could be fun, but what if you wanted something even more capable, without drawing any attention? That's where the 1986 Volkswagen Quantum Syncro comes in. On the surface, the Quantum was just another sensible German sedan, slotting above the Jetta but below the Audi 4000 in VW's lineup. Most people saw it as a practical, no-nonsense commuter, but those who looked closer found something unexpected. Audi's legendary Quattro all-wheel drive system hidden inside a Volkswagen badge. The Quantum Syncro wasn't just another front-wheel drive economy car. It packed a 2.2-liter 5-cylinder engine, making 115 horsepower, paired with a full-time all-wheel drive system borrowed from the Audi 80. This meant it had the grip and balance of a proper rally car, just without the aggressive styling. It was a true sleeper, offering sports sedan handling disguised as a family car. Despite its strengths, the Quantum Syncro never caught on. The price was high, the styling was forgettable, and most buyers just went for an Audi instead. But those who did take the plunge got one of the most underrated AWD sedans of the decade. The Quantum Syncro was basically an undercover Audi, but barely anyone noticed. If you had to daily drive one of these sleepers so far, which would it be? Drop a comment and let me know. And while this Volkswagen had Audi DNA under the skin, the next car on the list was an American coupe that hid way more power than anyone expected. Number 9. 1988 Toyota Camry All-Trac. The Volkswagen Quantum Syncro proved that all-wheel drive could transform a boring sedan into something special. But it wasn't the only one. Toyota had a trick up its sleeve too. The 1988 Toyota Camry All-Trac. The late 80s Camry was already gaining a reputation for being bulletproof and reliable, but no one thought of it as a performance car. That changed when Toyota decided to add its All-Trac AWD system, a technology pulled straight from its rally-bred Celica GT4. Suddenly, this sensible family sedan had serious grip, making it an unlikely choice for tackling rough weather or backroad twists. Under the hood, the Camry All-Trac came with a 2-liter 4-cylinder, making 115 horsepower. Not a powerhouse, but enough to take advantage of its advanced AWD system. Unlike most family sedans of the time, the All-Trac offered a manual transmission, making it an unexpectedly fun drive. But while it had AWD capability, it wasn't exactly sporty. The extra weight made it slower than a standard Camry, and most buyers weren't looking for rally-inspired features in their daily commuter. It was a rare combination of durability and grip that few appreciated at the time. The next car packed brutal turbocharged power in a body no one saw coming. And we're just getting started. There are even more unexpected sleepers ahead. If you love uncovering hidden performance icons from the past, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a ride down memory lane. Number 8. 1984 Isuzu Impulse Turbo. The Toyota Camry All-Trac had all-wheel drive for grip. But what if you wanted something smaller, sportier, and turbocharged? That's where the 1984 Isuzu Impulse Turbo comes in. In the early 80s, Isuzu wasn't exactly known for performance cars. But when the brand wanted to shake things up, they called in an unexpected name, Giorgetto Giugiaro, the legendary Italian designer behind the DeLorean, DMC-12, and BMW M1. His vision? A sharp, wedge-shaped coupe that looked like a futuristic concept car. The base model was all style, but the real fun started in 1984 when Isuzu strapped a turbocharger to it. The 1.9-liter turbocharged engine made 140 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much, but in a lightweight coupe, it was enough to embarrass bigger, more expensive cars. It also came with a Lotus-tuned suspension, meaning it handled just as well as it looked. For a brand mostly known for trucks, this was a surprising move. So why isn't it legendary today? Isuzu didn't have the same brand appeal as its competitors, and the Impulse Turbo remained a niche choice. Still, for those who knew what it was a hidden gem of 1980s performance. The coupe had sleek Italian styling, but the next car took a different approach, packing serious muscle into an unassuming American sedan. Number 7. 1987 Pontiac 6000 STE AWD. The Isuzu Impulse Turbo was a stylish coupe with impressive performance. But what if you needed something more practical, powerful, and ready for any weather? Enter the 1987 Pontiac 6000 STE AWD. By the late 80s, Pontiac was still riding the success of the Trans Am and Fiero, but their sedans weren't exactly exciting. That changed when they introduced the STE Special Touring Edition, a performance-focused version of the otherwise forgettable 6000. And in 1987, they took it one step further, making it the first American sedan with full-time all-wheel drive. Under the hood, the 2.8-liter V6 produced 125 horsepower, which wasn't mind-blowing, but the real magic was in its sport-tuned suspension, AWD system, and high-tech features. It had 4-wheel disc brakes, a digital dashboard, and a driver information center. Features you'd expect from a European sports sedan, not a Pontiac. And unlike most American sedans of the era, the STE AWD could actually carve corners, making it an under-the-radar performer. The downside? It was expensive and never found a real audience. Buyers looking for AWD sedans went to Audi, while Pontiac fans wanted raw muscle. Today, it's a forgotten relic, but one that proved American sedans could be more than just big, floaty cruisers. Speaking of American sedans, the next car on the list took things even further, stuffing an absurdly powerful engine into a front-wheel drive sleeper. Number 6. 1986 Merkur XR4Ti. If you wanted a car that was actually built in Europe, but sold as an American performance machine, The 1986 Merkur XR4Ti was Ford's ambitious attempt to bring German engineering to the US market. If the name Merkur doesn't ring a bell, you're not alone. This was Ford's short-lived luxury performance brand designed to take on BMW and Audi. The XR4Ti was essentially a rebranded Ford Sierra XR4i, a beloved European sports coupe, but with one major difference. Under the hood sat a 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, borrowed from the Mustang SVO. With 175 horsepower and rear-wheel drive, it had serious potential. The design was unique. The biplane rear wing and round edges were straight out of an 80s sci-fi movie. And while some loved the look, others weren't convinced. But on the road, the XR4T was fast, balanced, and handled like a proper German sports coupe. So why did it fail? Ford never marketed it properly, dealerships didn't know what to do with it, and the Merkur brand disappeared by the end of the decade. But for those who got their hands on one, the XR4Ti was one of the most underrated turbo cars of the era. And if you thought this German-American hybrid was an oddball, wait until you see what happens when a Japanese brand goes all in on rally-inspired all-wheel drive. This one had all the right ingredients: grippy AWD, solid engineering, and a touch of motorsport DNA. But here's the question: was it a hidden gem ahead of its time, or just too niche to succeed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 5. 1989. Ford Taurus SHO. The Merkur XR4Ti showed Ford's interest in high-performance, European-inspired cars. But what if they built something just as quick and hid it in plain sight? That's exactly what they did with the 1989 Ford Taurus SHO. By the late 80s, the Taurus had already shaken up the midsize sedan market with its futuristic design and strong sales. But Ford had a secret weapon, a high-performance version that looked nearly identical to the standard model. The super high-output SHO Taurus wasn't just a trim level, it was a completely different beast. The heart of the SHO was its Yamaha-built 3.0-liter V6, an engine originally designed for a canceled mid-engine Ford sports car. Instead of wasting it, Ford stuffed it into the Taurus, where it made 220 horsepower and revved to an astonishing 7,000 RPM. Numbers unheard of in family sedans at the time. Mated to a 5-speed manual, the Taurus SHO could keep up with Mustangs and Camaros while seating 5 in total comfort. And since it looked almost identical to the base model, it became the ultimate sleeper sedan. Nobody saw it coming. It was a huge success, but Ford wasn't done experimenting with fast, unexpected cars. Next up, a compact sedan that could embarrass sportier rivals at the stoplight. Number 4. 1985 Renault Alliance GTA. The Taurus SHO proved that performance could come from the most unexpected places. A similar story unfolded with the 1985 Renault Alliance GTA, a small, unassuming French-American economy car that packed a surprising punch. The Renault Alliance was the result of a short-lived partnership between Renault and AMC, bringing French engineering to American roads. While the base models were built for fuel economy, Renault had something spicier in mind. Enter the GTA, a performance version built exclusively for the US market. The GTA packed a 2.0-liter four-cylinder, making 95 horsepower, which might not sound like much, but in a lightweight chassis, it made a real difference. It also came with a close ratio 5-speed manual, stiffer suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and aggressive bodywork that hinted at its hidden potential. Despite being one of the most fun-to-drive compact cars of the era, the Alliance GTA suffered from Renault and AMC's shaky reputation in the US. Poor reliability and weak dealership support meant it never found the audience it deserved. By the late 80s, Renault packed up and left the American market, taking the GTA with it. But Renault wasn't the only European brand trying to build a quick and capable compact. Up next, a Swedish turbocharged sleeper that could outrun sports cars. And hey, if you've made it this far, you're clearly a fan of forgotten cars. So hit that subscribe button and stick around, because we've got even more underrated beasts coming up. 3. 1987 Buick LeSabre T-Type. Buick had the answer for a full-sized American sedan with the 1987 LeSabre T-Type, a car that looked like a comfortable cruiser but had more attitude than expected. By the mid-80s, Buick was finding surprising success with performance models. The Grand National and GNX were stealing the spotlight, but quietly, Buick also gave the LeSabre a sporty overhaul. The result was the T-Type, a big front-wheel drive sedan with a focus on handling rather than outright speed. Under the hood was a 3.8-liter V6, making 165 horsepower, paired with a 4-speed automatic. While it wasn't turbocharged like its regal sibling, it had a sport-tuned suspension, quicker steering, and beefier stabilizer bars. The changes made the LeSabre T-Type shockingly capable for its size, delivering a controlled and confident ride. Buick even gave it some visual edge. Blackout trim, special alloy wheels, and a subtle rear spoiler set it apart from the cushy family sedans it shared showroom space with. Still, most buyers looking for performance skipped it in favor of the Grand National, making the LeSabre T-Type a rare sight today. But while Buick gave a big sedan a sporty twist, another American brand took a boxy four-door and turned it into a serious turbocharged sleeper. Number 2, 1984 AMC Eagle SX4. The 1984 AMC Eagle SX4 came in, a car way ahead of its time. By the early 80s, AMC was struggling, but they still had a knack for building unconventional cars with real-world usability. The Eagle lineup was already breaking ground as one of the first true crossover vehicles, blending traditional station wagons and sedans with a rugged four-wheel drive system. The SX4 took that concept and shrunk it into a sporty two-door hatchback. Under the hood, AMC offered a 2.5-liter four-cylinder, or the more potent 4.2-liter inline-six, making around 110 horsepower. While that didn't sound like much, the SX4 made up for it with its All-Trac 4WD system, which let drivers switch between two- and four-wheel drive depending on conditions. Combine that with raised ground clearance and a surprisingly well-tuned suspension, and the SX4 could take on snow, dirt, and rough roads with confidence. Despite its innovative nature, the SX4 was too unusual for most buyers. AMC was on its last legs, and by 1984, the SX4 faded away. But if a rally-inspired hatchback seemed odd in the 80s, wait until you see the final sleeper on this list, an unassuming four-door that packs serious firepower. We've saved the best for last. This final sleeper is so rare and unexpected that most people don't even know it exists. Let's get into it. 1. 1985 Mercury Marquis LTS. We finally made it to number 1, and it's a car that barely anyone remembers. Throughout this list, we've seen performance hidden in unlikely places, but this one might just be the most unexpected of them all. The 1986 Mercury Marquis LTS took a full-size family sedan and gave it the heart of a muscle car. By the mid-1980s, performance was making a slow comeback, but Mercury wasn't exactly the first name that came to mind. The standard Marquis was known for being a comfortable, no-frills commuter, but the LTS trim was different. Mercury stiffened the chassis, upgraded the suspension, and swapped in bucket seats with a floor shifter, a far cry from the traditional bench seating. The real surprise was under the hood, a high-output 5.0-liter V8, the same one found in early Fox body Mustangs, producing 165 horsepower. Paired with a sportier suspension setup, it handled far better than a full-size sedan had any right to. With quad rectangular headlights, subtle badging, and body-colored trim, the LTS looked unassuming until you stepped on the gas. Unfortunately, it was a one-year-only model, fading into obscurity almost as quickly as it arrived. And there you have it, 12 of the most unexpected sleeper cars of the 1980s. But this is just the beginning. There are even crazier sleepers from the 60s and 70s that we haven't covered yet. So, if you love discovering hidden performance gems, check out this next video on sleeper cars from the 60s. You won't believe what made the list.